child's shoe sits alone on a granite outcrop deep in the wilds of Yosemite National Park. No footprints, no blood, no clue as to where its owner went. Just miles away, a grown man, a fire captain with 28 years of experience, vanishes in an instant while skiing, leaving behind his car wallet, even his identity. 6 days later, he reappears in a city thousands of miles away, wearing the same ski clothes with a head injury and no memory of what happened. This isn't fiction. This is reality, and it's happening in places you'd think are safe: deep forests, winding trails, and national parks visited by millions every year. But what makes these people, children, doctors, firefighters, students, disappear as if they never existed? And why, after decades, do we still have no answers? Hey there. I'm a mystery investigator, and today I'm taking you into one of the most haunting enigmas I've ever encountered: the unexplained disappearances in Yosemite National Park and wilderness areas across the globe. These stories aren't just strange. They make you wonder if something or someone is lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to make people vanish. We'll start this journey by exploring the settings of these vanishings, the people swept into this vortex of mystery, and the chilling details that leave even seasoned investigators shaken. Let's begin with Yosemite National Park, a crown jewel of American nature where towering granite cliffs pierce the sky. Endless pine forests stretch into the distance, and trails lead you to places where cell phones become useless. But behind this majestic beauty lies a dark secret. Yosemite isn't just a place of stunning vistas. It's the epicenter of the largest cluster of disappearances in the world, according to investigator Dave Pilatus, a man who spent years chasing the truth. Dave, a former cop with a passion for unraveling mysteries, has documented hundreds of vanishings here, from toddlers to accomplished adults. What's eerie is that these cases share terrifying patterns. Victims disappear in the late afternoon, often just steps from their group. Search dogs can't pick up a scent. An infrared radar on helicopters designed to detect human heat signatures fails completely. Even stranger, many cases occur near massive granite boulder fields, where, according to a 19th century tale, a priest once claimed the rocks swallowed him, only to spit him out days later. Yosemite isn't alone. Similar vanishings have occurred in wilderness areas across the U.S. and beyond, from Whiteface Mountain Ski Resort in New York, where a fire captain disappeared and reappeared in Sacramento with no memory, to Sespe Wilderness in California, where a firefighter chased his dog and never returned. Even in Laura, Australia, where vanishings near national parks bear identical traits. These areas are often rugged with vast granite fields, narrow trails shrouded in fog, and sudden storms that hit just as search teams begin. But what makes these cases truly chilling are the bizarre phenomena: compasses spinning wildly, security cameras failing, and tales of a distorted mirror as if space itself warps, pulling victims into a place no one can find. Now let's meet a few victims, ordinary people with lives, dreams, and families, yet caught in this nightmare. First, there's Danny Philippides, 49, a fire captain from Toronto, with 28 years on the job. Danny was dependable, a father, a friend, someone who stayed calm in crises. On February 7, 2018, he went to Whiteface Mountain to ski with friends, a routine trip he'd done dozens of times. He showed no signs of distress, just another day on the slopes, until he decided to take one last run alone. That was the last anyone saw of him. 6 days later, Danny called his wife from Sacramento International Airport, over 400 miles away, wearing his ski clothes, with a head wound and a vacant stare. He'd bought a new iPhone and gotten a haircut, but how when he had no wallet or ID? Then there's Clarence Murphy, a toddler playing in a sandbox at Camp Sacramento, a family retreat 6,000 feet up in the Central Sierras. His mother stepped away for just a minute, but when she returned, Clarence was gone. No cry, no footprints, no trace. A 2-week search with hundreds of volunteers, dogs, and helicopters turned up nothing. 14 months later, a deer hunter found a child's shoe on a granite outcrop 2 miles away and 2,000 feet higher. How could a toddler travel that far across rugged terrain without being found? And there's Mike Herdman, another firefighter who vanished in Los Padres National Forest in 2014. Mike, a family man, adored his dog Duke. During a hike with a friend, Duke bolted into the woods and Mike barefoot ran after him. That was the last his friend saw of him. The area, Sespe Wilderness, has eerie names like Devil's Heart Peak and Devil's Gateway, as if the land itself holds a sinister secret. These victims weren't reckless. They were smart, cautious, with stable lives, from doctors like Jonathan Torgerson, who vanished at Whitefish Mountain, to students like Stephen Kubacki, who disappeared on Lake Michigan and reappeared 15 months later, 700 miles away, in clothes that weren't his. But what made them vanish, and why are the clues so bizarre? A lone shoe, a new phone, a body floating like a buoy in a searched lake all defy reason. So what theories might explain these vanishings' first abduction? But who could kidnap someone without leaving a trace, even with search dogs deployed immediately? And why do survivors remember nothing? Second, maybe they chose to leave wanting to escape their lives. But that doesn't explain toddlers like Clarence, covering miles of rough terrain, or Danny showing up in Sacramento without money or ID. Third, accidents, perhaps they got lost, fell off cliffs, or died in harsh weather. But why do bodies appear in searched areas like Todd Gibbs, 2 intact after 21 days underwater, and why do dogs and infrared fail? Fourth, a bolder theory, supernatural or advanced technology. Physicist Dr. John Brandenburg suggested portals, rifts in space that people stumble into. It sounds crazy, but how do you explain a Colorado hunter's story of a distorted mirror that nearly cost him his foot? Finally, maybe it's a larger conspiracy. The National Park Service's silence, especially in Yosemite, where they refuse reports even after 30 years, makes you wonder if they're hiding something. My personal take: I can't shake the feeling that some force or technology beyond our understanding is at work in places like Yosemite. The granite fields, the spinning compasses, the failure of modern search tools, they all point to something bigger than a typical disappearance. Maybe, as Dr. Brandenburg hinted, someone or something knows how to use these portals, and people like Danny, Clarence, or Mike were just unlucky enough to cross their path. To understand why these people vanished and the strange clues they left behind, we need to dig into their final moments, the seconds when their ordinary lives turned into a nightmare. What happened in those deep woods, and why can't we find them? Let's dive in next. When Danny Philippides decided to take one last ski run at Whiteface Mountain, no one imagined it would be the last time they'd see him. Just minutes before he was laughing with friends, enjoying a clear day on the slopes. But then, as if swallowed by darkness, he was gone, leaving behind his car, wallet, and everything that tied him to his life. 6 days later, he showed up in Sacramento, thousands of miles away, with a head wound and a new iPhone, but no memory of what happened. Danny's story is just one of hundreds of mysterious vanishings in wilderness areas, where ordinary people disappear in an instant, leaving clues that defy all logic. In this part, we'll dive deep into their final moments, recreate the haunting events, and uncover the chilling evidence that leaves even seasoned investigators baffled. Let's start with Danny Philippides, the 49-year-old fire captain from Toronto. On February 7, 2018, he arrived at Whiteface Mountain Ski Resort in New York, a familiar spot with snow-covered slopes and crisp air. Danny wasn't a novice. He'd skied here many times, always cautious and well-prepared. That day, he was with friends, enjoying thrilling runs down the mountain. Around 2 p.m., as the group prepared to wrap up, Danny decided to take one more run alone. "I'll be right back," he said, flashing his usual grin. But he didn't come back. His friends waited, the CNN worried, then sounded the alarm. Search teams sprang into action with dogs, helicopters, and FLIR infrared radar capable of spotting a person's heat signature from hundreds of yards. But nothing. No footprints, no clothing scraps, no trace. Whiteface Mountain, with its open slopes and clear sight lines, seemed to have erased Danny without a hint. 6 days later, on February 13th, Danny's wife got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Danny calling from Sacramento International Airport, over 400 miles away. He was still in his ski clothes, but with a head wound and hollow eyes. "I don't know what happened," he kept saying, his voice trembling. Stranger still, Danny had bought a new iPhone and gotten a haircut during his absence, but had no wallet or ID. How did he get to Sacramento? Who took him there? And why couldn't he remember? When search teams revisited Whiteface, they found the area where he vanished was near a massive granite boulder field where their compasses began spinning uncontrollably as if disrupted by an unseen force. Now let's shift to another haunting case. Clarence Murphy, a toddler who vanished at Camp Sacramento one summer. Nestled 6,000 feet up in the Central Sierras, Camp Sacramento is a family retreat with rustic cabins, pine-shaded trails, and a peaceful vibe. Clarence, a lively boy with blonde hair and a bright smile, was playing in a sandbox near his family's cabin. His mother stepped away for just a minute to grab water, but when she returned, the sandbox was empty. No cry, no footprints, no sign of where Clarence went. "Clarence," she called, her voice growing frantic. But only the wind whistling through the pines answered. The search began immediately. Hundreds of volunteers, local police, trained dogs, and helicopters scoured the area. Camp Sacramento, with its narrow trails and deep granite crevices, was thoroughly searched from pathways to rocky outcrops. But once again, the dogs failed. Some sniffed around the sandbox, then stopped, as if Clarence's scent vanished right there. FLIR radar detected no heat signatures despite the small search radius. One volunteer recalled, "We went over the same ground dozens of times, but nothing. Just the wind howling through those granite rocks, like it was mocking us." After 2 weeks, the search scaled back, leaving Clarence's family in despair. 14 months later, a deer hunter stumbled upon a child's shoe on a granite outcrop 2 miles away, and 2,000 feet higher, the tiny weathered shoe lay alone in the boulder field like a cruel reminder of loss. What stunned everyone was how a toddler could travel that far over treacherous terrain with steep cliffs and dense woods without being found. Another case that haunts me is Mike Herdman, a 36-year-old firefighter from Ventura, California. In June 2014, Mike was hiking in Los Padres National Forest with his friend Tyler Byers and his beloved dog Duke. Mike, a devoted father, loved the outdoors and carried a backpack, water, and sturdy hiking boots. But that afternoon, as they rested near Cespe Wilderness, Duke suddenly bolted into the woods. Without thinking, Mike kicked off his boots and ran after him, calling Duke. "Come back," his voice echoed through the trees. Tyler waited, but only silence returned. Mike was gone. The search lasted weeks, with teams combing Cespe, a rugged area of narrow trails, granite cliffs, and eerie landmarks like Devil's Heart Peak and Devil's Gateway. Search dogs trained to track missing people circled aimlessly near Devil's Gateway, a massive granite field then lay down, refusing to follow. FLIR-equipped helicopters scanned the boulder fields but found no heat signatures. 9 days later, Duke returned gaunt and exhausted, but without Mike. Searchers found scraps, a piece of Mike's shirt, a faint footprint, but all trails ended at the granite fields as if Mike had stepped into thin air. Then there's Todd Gieb, a 22-year-old from Michigan, in 2005. Todd was a vibrant guy, always making people laugh at parties. On the night of June 11th, he attended an outdoor party in Casnovia near Ovid Hall Lake, a shallow, quiet lake surrounded by fields and sparse woods. Around 12:45 a.m., Todd left the party drunk but coherent. He called a friend saying, "I'm walking home, it's cold." That was the last anyone heard from him. Search teams scoured the area with boats, dogs, and helicopters. Ovid Hall, only about 5 feet deep, was checked with sonar and divers. Nothing. 3 weeks later, on July 2nd, Todd's body was found floating in the lake, right in the middle of an area divers had searched dozens of times. What's chilling is that his body looked too intact, as if it had been underwater for hours, not 21 days. Even stranger, his blood contained traces of an antidepressant he'd never taken. How did it get there? And why did his body float like a buoy, as investigators described, in a lake they'd already combed? These events share a chilling trait. Victims vanish abruptly, often in the late afternoon, at a point of separation, the moment they're briefly alone or step away from their group. But what makes these cases truly bizarre are the clues left behind, or rather the clues that shouldn't be there. Let's look at the evidence. Danny Philippides left his car wallet and belongings at Whiteface. When he reappeared in Sacramento, he had a new iPhone, a fresh haircut, and a head wound. Who took him there? And how did he travel thousands of miles, unnoticed? Clarence Murphy. A child's shoe found 2 miles away on a granite outcrop. No footprints, no other clothing. How did he get there? Mike Herdman barefoot, he left only a shirt scrap and a faint footprint near a boulder field. Duke returned but didn't lead searchers to Mike. Todd Geib, missing his hat, 1 shoe, and phone. His body appeared in a searched lake with unexplained antidepressants in his system. Then there are the anomalies that make these cases even creepier. Search dogs fail. In most cases, dogs can't pick up a scent or refuse to track, circling aimlessly or lying down, a behavior experts call unprecedented. FLIR is useless. Helicopters with infrared radar designed to detect body heat find nothing even when victims are later found in the same area. Granite boulder fields. Many vanishings occur near or in areas with massive granite rocks, especially in Yosemite Sespe or Whiteface. These cold, jagged stones seem to be a constant in these stories. Impossible distances. Kids like Clarence travel miles over terrain even adults would struggle with. Malfunctioning equipment, compasses spin wildly, security cameras fail, and phones lose signal at the moment victims disappear. And perhaps, strangest of all, survivors remember nothing. Danny Philippides, Stephen Kubacki, who vanished on Lake Michigan in 1978 and reappeared 15 months later in Massachusetts wearing unfamiliar clothes, all couldn't recall what happened. To bring these moments to life, picture the scenes. At Whiteface Light, snow falls rustling as the wind sweeps through. Danny in his red ski jacket is a tiny dot on the slope, then vanishes into a thin fog. At Camp Sacramento, sunlight filters through the pines, but Clarence's sandbox holds only his tiny handprints like an unfinished painting. In Los Padres, the wind howls through Devil's Gateway, carrying Mike's desperate calls. And in Michigan, Ovid Hall Lake lies still under moonlight, hiding Todd Geib's secret. These sounds and images aren't just eerie. They're a warning that nature, however beautiful, can hold terrifying secrets. So where do these clues lead us? Let's consider some theories. First, abduction. Someone could have taken Danny to Sacramento or led Clarence through rough terrain. But there are no footprints, no signs of struggle, and who could evade search dogs? Second, accidents. Maybe Danny got lost, Mike fell into a ravine, or Todd drowned. But why do bodies appear in searched areas? And what about details like Todd's mystery medication? Third, supernatural. Perhaps a phenomenon like Dr. Brandenburg's portals pulls victims into another dimension. Spinning compasses and Colorado's distorted mirror seem to fit, but it's too fantastical for current science. Fourth, voluntary disappearance. Maybe Mike or Danny wanted to escape their lives, but this doesn't explain kids or Todd's condition. Fifth, conspiracy. The FBI's involvement in some cases like Shane Montgomery's and the National Park Service's silence suggest a cover-up. But what's the motive? My take is that these clues from granite fields to malfunctioning gear aren't random. They feel like part of a larger pattern, something deliberately challenging our ability to investigate. Maybe it's advanced technology or a force we don't yet understand targeting specific areas like Yosemite or Sespe. The boulder fields the lone shoes. Nature's silence. They whisper that the truth is right in front of us, but we're not equipped to see it. But the story doesn't end with these strange clues. These vanishings sparked desperate searches, tireless efforts by rescue teams, families, and communities. How did they cope with their helplessness, and what happened as they tried to unravel this mystery? Let's find out next. The granite boulder fields of Yosemite stand silent, as if guarding the secrets of those who vanished. Clarence Murphy's lone shoe, Todd Gibbs' two intact body, and Danny Philippides' mysterious reappearance. In Sacramento, they're pieces of a puzzle no one can solve. But as rescue teams, families, and investigators like Dave Pilatus tried to uncover the truth, they faced not just bizarre clues, but barriers that seemed designed to stop them. In this part, we'll dive into the grueling investigations, explore the limitations that make these vanishings unsolvable, and consider the most terrifying theories from advanced technology to a cover-up to understand what's really happening in those deep woods. Let's start with the search for Danny Philippides at Whiteface Mountain in February 2018. When his friends reported him missing after his final ski run, local rescue teams mobilized instantly. Whiteface, with its snow-covered slopes and open views, isn't an easy place to disappear. Teams with dogs, helicopters, and FLIR infrared radar scoured every inch. They trekked through cold granite boulder fields where fresh snow formed thin layers, hoping for footprints or any sign of Danny. But something strange happened. The dogs, trained to detect human scent from miles away, circled aimlessly and lay down, refusing to track. One rescuer, with over 20 years of experience, shook his head. "I've never seen dogs do that. It's like his scent was erased." FLIR, which can spot body heat through dense covers, showed nothing. After 3 days, a blizzard hit, halting the search and burying any potential clues. When Danny called from Sacramento 6 days later, the team was stunned. How could someone travel 400 miles without a trace? Similarly, the search for Clarence Murphy at Camp Sacramento was a massive but frustrating effort. As soon as his mother reported him missing, hundreds of volunteers, local police, and professional rescuers descended on the area. Camp Sacramento, tucked in the Central Sierras, is isolated with narrow trails and deep granite crevices. Teams split up, using dogs to sniff and helicopters to scan from above. But again, the dogs failed. Some sniffed around the sandbox where Clarence played, then stopped as if his scent vanished on the spot. FLIR detected no heat signatures despite the small area. One volunteer said, "We covered the same ground dozens of times, but nothing. Just the wind howling through those granite rocks like it was laughing at us." After 2 weeks, the search dwindled, leaving Clarence's family in despair. When his shoe was found 14 months later, 2 miles away on a granite outcrop, rescuers couldn't explain why they'd missed it. The area had been thoroughly checked. The search for Mike Herdman in Los Padres National Forest revealed even stranger details. Sespe Wilderness, where Mike vanished chasing his dog Duke, is a rugged expanse of granite cliffs and fog-shrouded trails. Rescue teams, including Mike's fellow firefighters, searched with fierce determination. They brought dogs, drones, and 2Bear Air, one of the most advanced search units in the U.S. But the dogs once again refused to track, circling near Devil's Gateway, a vast granite field then lying down. Drones captured images of the boulder fields, but found no trace of Mike. 9 days later, when Duke returned, gaunt and weary rescuers hoped he'd lead them to Mike. But Duke just lay down, staring at the granite rocks, as if knowing his owner had gone somewhere unreachable. In Todd Gibbs' case, the investigation in Michigan uncovered troubling contradictions. After Todd vanished from a party near Ovid Hall, Lake teams searched with boats, dogs, and helicopters. The lake, only about 5 feet deep, was checked with sonar and divers. Nothing. But 3 weeks later, Todd's body was found floating in the lake right where divers had searched dozens of times. Investigators noted his body looked like a buoy with minimal decomposition, and his blood contained an antidepressant his family swore he never took. The family demanded a reinvestigation, suspecting foul play, but police refused, ruling it a drunken drowning. One rescuer anonymously told Dave Politis, "I don't know what happened, but I swear we checked that area. He wasn't there before he appeared." A key figure in unraveling these mysteries is Dave Politis, a former cop and independent investigator who spent years studying vanishings in Yosemite and beyond. Dave isn't one for wild theories. He approaches cases methodically, reviewing records, interviewing witnesses, and filing Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests. But what shocked him was the obstruction from the National Park Service, especially in Yosemite. When he requested case reports, they claimed records didn't exist or charged $65 per hour to retrieve them, an unusual fee for FOIA requests. In cases like Stacey Harris, a woman who vanished in Yosemite in the 1980s, the Park Service said no reports were kept after 30 years. Dave wrote on social media, "They're hiding something." No agency is that careless about missing persons in a national park. Obstruction didn't just come from agencies. In Shane Montgomery's case, a 21-year-old student who vanished in Philadelphia in 2014, the FBI unexpectedly joined the investigation despite no clear evidence of a crime. Shane, a bright Catholic school graduate with a warm smile, disappeared after leaving a bar the night before Thanksgiving. Security footage showed him walking near the Manayunk River, but the image suddenly blurred, as if tampered with. 4 weeks later, his body was found in the river, but his family suspected something was off. His clothes were too clean, and the death was ruled a drunken drowning without further inquiry. The FBI's involvement and police silence left the family wondering if there was a larger cover-up. These limitations, from failing technology to agency stonewalling, make these vanishings unsolvable mysteries. But what could explain these bizarre phenomena? Let's dig into some detailed theories. Organized abduction. A group or organization could be targeting victims, moving them without a trace. This explains Danny's reappearance in Sacramento or Stephen Kubaki's in Massachusetts. But there are no footprints, no witnesses, and no clear motive. Who could pull off such perfect abductions, evading dogs and effluent environmental accidents? Victims might have gotten lost, fallen into ravines, or died in harsh weather. Yosemite's granite cliffs and fog make accidents likely. But this doesn't explain Todd Geib's body appearing in a searched lake or Clarence's 2-mile trek. Why didn't Fleur spot them early, when body heat was present? Supernatural or advanced technology Dr. John Brandenburg suggested portals, rifts, and space people stumble into. Sounds like sci-fi, but it accounts for spinning compasses, failing cameras, and Colorado's distorted mirror story. The lack of scientific proof is a weakness, but the recurring anomalies, especially granite, make it hard to dismiss. Voluntary disappearance. Some, like Stephen Kubaki, might have chosen to leave their lives. But this doesn't fit cases like Clarence, a toddler, or Mike Herdman, who left a loving family and dog. Why do survivors recall nothing? High-level conspiracy. The National Park Service's silence, especially in Yosemite, and the FBI's role in cases like Shane Montgomery's, suggest a cover-up. An Alaska state trooper told Dave, "You're the first to talk about this. We see it all the time in searches." But what's the motive? Why hide vanishings? My take is that these vanishings can't be explained by simple accidents or abductions. The recurring anomalies, granite fields, failing dogs, spinning compasses, agency silence, point to something beyond our understanding. Maybe it's advanced technology, as Brandenburg suggests, or an unknown force targeting places like Yosemite or Sespe. What haunts me most is the intentionality, like Something or someone is playing a game we can't win. While investigators and rescuers grappled with these unanswered questions, the families and communities faced a pain that never fades. How did they keep going when their loved ones vanished without a trace? And how did their efforts change society's view of these wild places, as let's explore next. While Yosemite's granite fields and Sespey's eerie woods hold tight to their secrets, those left behind families, friends, communities face a pain without answers. Clarence Murphy's mother still stands by the empty sandbox where her son played, wondering what she could have done differently. Danny Filippides' wife, though reunited with him, is haunted by the days he was gone, and the vacant look in his eyes when he returned. These vanishings aren't just mysteries. They're wounds that never heal, questions that reshape entire communities' views of nature and themselves. In this part, we'll delve into the anguish of those left behind, their fight for truth, and the profound impact these cases have had on society, from widespread fear to shifts in safety awareness. Let's start with Clarence Murphy's family, the toddler who vanished at Camp Sacramento. When Clarence disappeared from the sandbox one summer afternoon, his mother Emily broke down. "I was only gone a minute," she said in an interview, her voice choking. "I came back and my son was gone. No sound, no sign." Emily and her husband Tom stayed in the area for the entire 2-week search. They joined volunteers hiking rugged trails, calling Clarence's name until their voices gave out. When the search scaled back due to no leads, Emily stayed scouring every crevice, every granite field. "I know my son is out there," she said, eyes red from crying. When Clarence's shoe was found 14 months later, 2 miles away on a granite outcrop, Emily felt both hope and despair. "How did my son get there? Who took him?" she asked. The tiny weathered shoe, still bearing traces of his small feet, became a symbol of unending grief. The Murphys never gave up. They hold annual memorials at Camp Sacramento, urging people to carry personal locator beacons, PLBs, in the wilderness, hoping Clarence's story saves others. Danny Filippides' family faced a different kind of pain, tinged with uneasy relief. When Danny vanished at Whiteface Mountain, his wife Sarah and their 2 young kids fell into a nightmare. Sarah described those days as a dark void. "Danny was the most reliable person I knew," she said. "He'd never leave without a word." Sarah called police rescue teams, even drove to Whiteface to join the search. She stood on the snowy slopes, staring at the granite field where Danny disappeared, feeling like nature was hiding him from her. When Danny called from Sacramento 6 days later, Sarah was both relieved and confused. He was still Danny, but something was wrong, she said. Danny returned with a head scar, a new iPhone, and no memory of the lost days. Sarah spent months taking him to therapists, trying to unlock his memories, but to no avail. The Filippides family never returned to Whiteface. "I don't trust that place," Sarah said. "There's something wrong with those granite rocks." Mike Herdman's family carried a similar pain, but with permanent loss. When Mike vanished in Los Padres National Forest, his wife Jessica and young daughter Lily waited in agony. Jessica, an elementary school teacher, recalled the moment rescuers said Duke had returned, but not Mike. "I thought Duke would lead them to him," she said, tears streaming. But Duke just lay there, like he'd lost him forever. Jessica joined searches, trekking through Sespey Wilderness, where names like Devil's Heart Peak and Devil's Gateway gave her chills. She carried a photo of Mike, tall, brown-haired, always smiling, asking locals if they'd seen him. When rescuers found a scrap of Mike's shirt near a granite field, Jessica held Lily tight, hoping he was alive. But that hope faded as the searches yielded nothing. Jessica now runs a charity in Mike's name, donating PLBs to hikers, hoping no family endures her pain. Todd Gieb's family faced not just grief, but anger. When Todd's body was found in Ovid Hall Lake 3 weeks after vanishing his mother, Kathy rejected the official ruling of drunken drowning. Todd wasn't careless, she told a local paper. He knew that area and that lake's too shallow to drown unnoticed. What infuriated Kathy was the antidepressant in Todd's blood, a drug the family insisted he never took. They demanded a reinvestigation, but police refused, leaving them feeling abandoned. Kathy contacted Dave Pilatus, sharing details of Todd's case and joining online groups to seek answers. "I just want the truth," she said. "Someone has to know what happened to my son." The Gibbs pain wasn't just loss. It was the sense that the system didn't care enough to dig deeper. Communities, too, felt the ripple effects. At Camp Sacramento, families who once saw the retreat as a haven now hesitate to bring kids. A local who helped search for Clarence said, "I don't let my kids play alone anymore. Not because of people, but because of the forest. Something's off here." At Whiteface Mountain, ski guides warn tourists about the granite zone where Danny vanished, though no one says exactly what it is. In Sespe Wilderness, hikers whisper about Devil's Gateway, calling it where nature takes what it wants. These stories, though tinged with superstition, have changed how people view wilderness, not as a place to explore, but as a place hiding invisible dangers. Media played a big role in shaping perceptions. Danny Filippides' case, with his sudden reappearance in Sacramento, hit mainstream news. Headlines like "Missing Man Found Thousands" thousands of miles away drew attention but sparked controversy when some outlets suggested Danny ran off a claim his family denied. Cases like Clarence Murphy or Mike Herdman, meanwhile, stayed confined to online forums or Dave Pilatus' books like Missing 411. Dave used social media, especially Facebook and Twitter now, X, to rally public support for FOIA requests, overcoming Park Service barriers. A 2018 post of his went viral, gaining thousands of shares and help from volunteers and anonymous rescuers like an Alaska state trooper who said, "David, you're the first to speak out. We deal with this all the time." The long-term impact goes beyond families and communities. These vanishings sparked a new fear in American society, the fear of hiking alone in forests, especially in places like Yosemite, where granite and fog seem to hide deadly secrets. Activists, including Dave Pilatus, pushed for PLB use, but as Dave wrote, they're still not widely known. If Clarence or Mike had one, we might have found them. This fear fueled conspiracy theories, with many believing the National Park Service is covering up a larger phenomenon. Online forums compare Yosemite's vanishings to the Bermuda Triangle or Dyatlov Pass, calling them holes in reality. A nearly forgotten detail uncovered by Dave Pilatus adds to the mystery. In a 19th century tale, a Yosemite priest claimed he was swallowed by a granite rock, only to be released days later with vague memories of a dark space. The story, dismissed as superstition, echoes a 1980s report from Colorado, where a hunter described seeing a distorted mirror space bending before him, nearly costing him his foot. These accounts, though far-fetched, make you wonder if something beyond science is at play, or if they're just humanity's attempt to explain the inexplicable. So what theories explain the pain and questions these families endure? First, environmental accidents. Clarence, Mike, or Todd might have met. Mishaps in rough terrain, but this doesn't explain their appearing in searched areas. Second, abduction. Someone could have targeted them, but the lack of traces or motive weakens this. Third, supernatural tales of distorted mirrors and swallowing granite suggest something beyond understanding, but there's no scientific proof. Fourth, conspiracy. The Park Service's silence and the FBI's role in Shane Montgomery's case hint at a cover-up, but of what fifth amnesia or erratic behavior Danny or Stephen Kubacki might have had memory lapses, but this doesn't fit kids like Clarence. My take is that these families' pain comes not just from loss, but from helplessness before a mystery that feels designed to stay unsolved. The granite field's malfunctioning gear and agency obstruction suggest a force, human or otherwise, deliberately keeping this secret. Their stories remind us that nature, however beautiful, can be deadly, and that truth sometimes lies beyond our reach. But with all these efforts, tears, and unanswered questions, we're no closer to the truth. What's really happening in those woods? And will we ever find answers? Let's wrap this up next. After desperate searches, endless tears, and bizarre clues leading to dead ends, the mystery of the vanishings in Yosemite and other wilderness areas stands defiant, challenging every human effort. Clarence Murphy's lone shoe, Danny Philippides' vacant-eyed return, and Duke lying motionless by Sespe's granite fields, they're fragments of a picture we can't complete. Families like the Murphys, Philippides, and Herdmans live with an unhealing pain, while communities question whether nature is as safe as we thought. In this final part, we'll sum up what we know, what we may never know, and reflect on the deeper meaning of these mysteries, not just for those affected, but for all of us. And I want you to join me in asking what's really hiding in those deep woods. Looking back, we see a chilling pattern across hundreds of vanishings, from Yosemite National Park to Whiteface Mountain's Sespe Wilderness to Michigan's Ovid Hall Lake. Victims from toddlers like Clarence Murphy to brilliant adults like Dr. Jonathan Torgerson or firefighter Mike Herdman disappear abruptly, often in the late afternoon, at a point of separation when they're just steps from their group. The clues defy logic: a child's shoe 2 miles away, a body floating like a buoy in a searched lake, a man reappearing across the country with a new iPhone and no memory. The anomalies: dogs refusing to track Fleur, failing compasses spinning, and the eerie presence of granite recur in most cases like a signature of an inexplicable phenomenon. Perhaps most chilling is the National Park Service's silence, especially in Yosemite, where they deny reports or charge exorbitant FOIA fees. As Dave Pilatus wrote, "Whatever's causing this, it's never made a mistake, because if it did, you or I would have heard about it." The unanswered questions make these cases haunting. Who or what is behind these vanishings? How could a toddler like Clarence travel 2 miles over treacherous terrain without a trace? Why did Danny Philippides show up in Sacramento with a headscar and a new phone, but no memory? Where did the antidepressant in Todd Gieb's blood come from? And why did his body look fresh after 3 weeks? And why is Yosemite, with its granite boulder fields, the epicenter of this mystery? The theories we've explored, abduction accidents, supernatural conspiracy, voluntary disappearance, all have holes. Abduction doesn't explain the lack of traces. Accidents can't account for bodies in searched areas. Supernatural, though tempting with tales of distorted mirrors or portals, lacks scientific proof. Conspiracy with the Park Service's obstruction suggests a cover-up, but of what involuntary disappearance doesn't fit toddlers or devoted people like Mike Herdman. The impact goes far beyond families. These stories have reshaped our view of wilderness. Yosemite, once a symbol of pristine beauty, now carries a dark shadow. Its winding trails, towering granite cliffs, and sudden fogs aren't just scenery, they're a warning. Places like Whiteface or Sespe Wilderness, too, carry whispered myths about granite zones or Devil's Gateway that unnerve hikers. This fear has spread beyond the US to places like Leura, Australia, or New Zealand, where similar vanishings are reported. It reminds us of a chilling truth: no matter how advanced we are, some places remain beyond our control. As an Alaska state trooper told Dave, "There are things in the woods we don't understand, and maybe we shouldn't try." The societal implications run deeper. These stories tap into primal fears of disappearing, being forgotten, or facing forces beyond our grasp. Families like the people we've met lost not just loved ones, but trust in the world's safety. Their activism, from media campaigns to PLB pushes, is a way to reclaim control in a chaotic reality. But the Park Service's silence and the FBI's odd involvement in cases like Shane Montgomery's fuel conspiracies, making people wonder if the government's hiding something bigger. These tales spread through Dave's book's online forums, and shows like Vanished have become cultural touchstones, like the Bermuda Triangle or Dyatlov Pass, blending curiosity with dread. My reflection is that this isn't just about missing people, it's about our fragility. We think we master our lives, that tech and science can solve everything. But these vanishings prove otherwise. Some mysteries are too vast. Maybe granite, ever present in these stories, plays a role, as Doctor hinted, as a nexus for portals. Or maybe it's just a symbol of our helplessness. Either way, these cases remind us that truth sometimes lies out of reach. But that doesn't mean we should stop looking. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about these vanishings? Are they accidents, a cover-up, or something supernatural? Are those granite fields hiding secrets, or just coincidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all and can't wait to see your theories. If you've experienced something weird in the woods or heard similar stories, share them. And don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries, from lost ships to forgotten towns. Maybe the truth is out there waiting for someone brave enough to find it.